This broadcast is the property of Codependents Anonymous. Reproduction without written permission from Codependents Anonymous is not permitted.
The topic for this month's Fellowship Forum meeting is the labels of Codependents Anonymous. How does CoDA define codependence and codependency? And Jim and I were speaking just before the meeting began about, Jim asked me, why did I select this as a topic? Sally, I'm going to turn off your video. We are recording this meeting, okay? Thank you. And I was explaining to Jim that every now and again in a meeting, I will hear someone, when they are sharing, object to being defined, having their codependency defined as a disease or a defect of character. And that is the inspiration for today's topic. And I also feel that I would say, for me, my codependency puts me at dis-ease with a hyphen, D-I-S hyphen E-A-S-E, which refers back to the original meaning of the word disease, where when first used, it referred literally to a lack of ease or comfort, rather than how it is used today to refer to sickness or problems with bodily functions. Also, I don't see or want to see or be defined as having a defect of character. I have character traits and behaviors that I want to change, but they're not defects. I am not a defect, just like I am not a mistake. I make mistakes. I am not a mistake. My name is David. I am codependent, and that is the topic for today's meeting. I'll pass the microphone over to Jim, my co-host for today's meeting, and ask Jim if you have any comments you would like to make on today's topic.
Thank you, David. I was trying to find my comments. I had them written down. The beginning was that an addiction does not lead to codependence. Codependence leads to the addiction. So it's a root cause of these addictions. And what I wrote, if you use the 12 steps to get rid of your addiction to whatever it is, eating or alcohol or whatever it is, you can learn to live with your addiction. But if you can overcome codependence, you can learn to live without the addiction, because codependence is the root cause of the addiction before you even get addicted. It's that, as I was raised as a child, they didn't know how to love me right, is what happened. And I didn't function. So then I had to compensate for that by having addictions and I have all kinds of problems. But the root cause, and I guess you could say it's, for me, I think it's a character defect. Is it a disease? I don't like to think of myself that way, but it's a defect that I deny all the time that I have it, because I can't see it. I feel it. And that's why I I have to do things to overcome it. But once I understand that, then I can learn to live without the addiction. Okay, I found it. I'm doing two things at once. I can thank. Okay, can you think of an instance? Yeah, I pretty well covered everything. Let me get to the end to make sure I said everything. Well, I was talking about sponsorship. When you're raised by your parents, and you're raised codependently, my view of life became distorted. And what I came to realize was that when I got in recovery, all the answers I seek are within me, but it's the process of recovery that brings them out. And since my world was so distorted from being raised by codependent parents, I had to find a mirror that would work for me so I could see myself. And what I did was I found a sponsee. And anyway, that's my answer to the problem, is to reach out and connect with people. And that's what we do in CoDA. We support each other. I'm probably rambling past the label point, but that's why I think it's the root cause of all my problems. And label me any way you want, as long as I have my friends in CoDA. I have the people that love me, the people that care, and the people that understand. Because when I go to the meeting, I talk and nobody stops me and nobody interrupts me. And I can sit there and listen to other people like me. And before I got to CoDA, I didn't even know there was anybody like me. So that's my take on the label. And I'm glad I found it, but I would rather be independent. But for now, I'm James, and my name is James, and I'm codependent. And I'll pass. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Again, welcome everyone to today's fellowship forum. The topic for today's meeting are the labels in CoDA. How do I define my codependency? And for example, do I think of myself as having a disease or a defect of character? And we're open to shares. Does anyone have any comments or they would like to share with us today about their feelings, about your feelings, about your definition of your codependency that you would like to share in this meeting?
This is a question, not a, not sharing what I think my codependency is. But you said, how do I define my codependency? And you said two things. I didn't get them. You said dis-ease, and then you said not defect, or I don't get it.
Thank you, Arahan. Maybe let me try and clarify the topic.
Okay.
In the CoDA literature, it says in various places in the Blue Book, I think, and in the Green Book, it talks about codependence and codependent behavior as a defect of character. I think in the steps and traditions, and I'll get to that. I'll go right to, yes, step 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. And then in the early chapters in the Blue Book, I know it refers to codependency as a disease. And I have heard people, and I also feel that just like I can make a mistake I am not a mistake. I have character traits I am learning to change through this program using the tools and principles of the CoDA program to be a better me. Some of those traits I'm not happy with, but I don't consider myself a defective person. I don't think I have defects. I have behavior patterns I want to change. And this program helps me better than anything else I've ever learned. It helps me change those behaviors into behaviors I'm happier with. I like myself more when I make these changes. So I have problems thinking of myself and my codependent behaviors as defects of character. And I certainly don't like to think of myself as having a disease. That is not a definition I want applied, that I would apply to myself. And so I'm asking in this meeting, and the point, the function of the fellowship is we get to talk about not just our experience, strength, and hope in recovery, but also we get to talk about our experience of this program, of the CoDA program, and what things we have questions about or would like to see changed in CoDA. And this is our opportunity once a month to get together and talk about these issues differently than we do in a meeting where all we talk about is our experience, strength, and hope in recovery. We get to share that in a meeting. Here in the fellowship, we get to share about our experience of the program itself as well. So if that clarifies this for you, Rahel, great. Terry, I see your hand
Yes,
up.
thank you.
Hi, this is Terry, and I'm codependent. Can I be heard?
Yes, Terry, and welcome.
Thank you. What I want to start out with, this topic, runs through coming to CoDA. I had gone to other 12-step fellowships a few times with friends, and the language of the 12 steps and how they were written in those programs, their welcome and their preamble really did turn me off. So I think that when someone comes to a CoDA meeting, and when I came to a CoDA meeting, first hearing the welcome and preamble before even hearing the steps that say defects of character or disease really helped me find something solid to ground myself in, to try to understand what Codependence Anonymous was, because it was very confused at the beginning. So what I want to do is to start by reading the welcome of Codependence Anonymous, and then have a few little experience, strength, or hope to share about that. So the welcome of CoDA reads, "We welcome you to Codependence Anonymous, a program of recovery from codependence where each of us may share our experience, strength, and hope in our efforts to find freedom where there has been bondage and peace where there has been turmoil in our relationships with others and ourselves. Most of us have been searching for ways to overcome the dilemmas of the conflict in our relationships and our childhood. Many of us were raised in families where addictions existed, some of us were not. In either case, we have found in each of our lives that codependence is the most deeply rooted, compulsive behavior, and that it is born out of our sometimes moderately, sometimes extremely dysfunctional family systems. We have each experienced in our own ways the painful trauma of the emptiness of our childhood and relationships throughout our lives. We attempted to use others, our mates, our friends, and even our children, as our sole source of identity, value, and well-being, and is a way of trying to restore within us the emotional losses from our childhood. Our histories may include other powerful addictions, which at times we have used to cope with our codependence. We have all learned to survive life, but in CoDA, we are learning to live life. Through applying the 12 steps and principles found in CoDA to our daily lives and relationships, both present and past, we can experience a new freedom from our self-defeating lifestyle. It is an individual growth process. Each of us is growing at our own pace and will continue to do so as we remain open to God's will for us on a daily basis. Our sharing is our way of identification and helps us to free the emotional bonds of our past and the compulsive control of our present. No matter how traumatic your past or despairing your present may seem, there is hope for a new day in the program of Codependence Anonymous. No longer do you need to rely on others as a power greater than yourself. May you instead find here a new strength within to be that which God intended, precious and free. And that's the end of the reading of the Welcome of Codependence Anonymous. This is my favorite piece of CoDA literature because it is my experience of coming to CoDA year after year, working the steps with a sponsor, is I have come to understand that no matter how much I am falling into denial, low self-esteem, avoidance, compliance, controlling behaviors, sometimes at the beginning I could not see it. I could feel the compulsiveness and the unmanageability of my life, but understanding that process of uncovering and see them for what they are, and that my compulsive behavior patterns are born out of my extremely dysfunctional family system and my history, and knowing that those are all things I was using to cope, helps me not take it too seriously when the literature says that I have a defective character. In conversations with my sponsor, she uses the phrase character challenges. And sometimes that's what I do too, is when I hear defective character, I flip it in my mind to character challenges. When I hear the word God, I flip it in my mind to higher power or source. And I know that that's okay. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. The literature doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to be perfect, but it is functioning and I'm recovering. And I'm really coming to understand that the compulsive behaviors that I'm working through and getting past are born out of shame and fear and abandonment. And it's difficult to go to those places, but luckily I have a really beautiful, loving sponsor who helped me through with fourth and fifth step, and ongoing with these things that come up from the past, and where the root really is, and how to be present there with those parts of me that still hurt, and knowing that the parts of me that are hurting are being protected by these codependent behaviors. And the more that I can let my higher power into my life, trust, keep coming back, and give myself forgiveness for not being perfect, and the fact that I am codependent, that's fine, as I just keep working through and becoming my best self. So I like this idea that they're character challenges and they're not permanent. I do think that codependence is permanent. The way that I was raised and the way that doesn't go away. But I can come to myself, develop that relationship with my higher power and myself that is loving and supportive, so that when those things come up, when I might want to knee jerk into a reaction that is compliant or controlling, I have that space now to step back, and I don't have to do that anymore. So the codependence doesn't go away, but I have so much more awareness and tools and choices and freedom. So I think it's a really beautiful program, and we get to make the program our own, and I think that's really beautiful as well. And with that, I pass.
Thank you for sharing, Terry. I really like that, character challenges. Anyone else? Today's topic is, how do I define myself in the program of Codependence Anonymous? Am I comfortable thinking of myself as having a disease and a defective character, or do I have a different view? Today's topic. I was at a meeting a while ago, and someone asked for a definition of codependence. And I believe somewhere in the Blue Book, in chapter 5, frequently asked questions area, it says that CoDA does not offer a definition of codependence specifically. But the question was asked in a meeting, and it went around the room, and the leader of that meeting, someone I would really like very much and enjoy going to the meetings that he leads, offered the following information. He said he saw codependence as a self-love deficit disorder. And that struck me really powerfully. I wrote it down and I remember it. A self-love deficit disorder. So I share that with the meeting. If you find that you can identify with that, you are welcome to it, or we can talk about it, Any comments, feedback, anyone would like to take a share on today's topic?
This is Kathy. I'm codependent.
Hi, Kathy. Welcome.
Thank you. I really identify with this topic, and what happens with me is that has always happened while I've been in CoDA is I'll go to a new meeting and hear other shares and think right away, this is not me. I'm not like these people. And yet by the end of the meeting, after I've shared, I feel such affinity with everybody in the meeting. And I'm so grateful for the support I've received. I know that people who identify as codependent are my people. And I'm just like that. And I'm comfortable with the term codependent. I've gone back and forth about my character defects with my sponsor. She thought that I was too harsh with myself. And yet, when I read the patterns of codependency, which I just looked up on the CoDA website, and I see denial patterns, low self-esteem patterns, compliance patterns, control patterns, and avoidance patterns. I definitely have them all. There's no doubt about it. And I think what happens is I just forget. If life is going well, I forget I have codependency and think I'm just fine, and then something happens and I feel devastated sometimes, like I can't believe I did that, or look what just happened in my life. How did I contribute? And I know that I need a meeting. And I wish I could be more faithful. I want to be more faithful with attending meetings and getting the support I need from other codependents and giving that support as well. What happened just yesterday is that I've been single now for almost a year and a half, which is a long time for me. I have never wanted to be without a partner. And so I decided to join eHarmony because I was really especially interested in their compatibility profile. And so I filled it out, and with the compatibility profile, they give you a personality profile. And I read it last night, and it made me so incredibly sad that this quiz absolutely caught my elements of codependency. And basically, it explains what they were looking for, which is, a lot of these patterns, as we know, develop in childhood. And no matter how much I think I'm getting better or try to fight against it, I definitely do think it's lifelong. And it's hard to see that denial is strong. I believe myself to be kind and generous and unselfish, helpful. I don't understand why people don't take my advice. And I end up unhappy every time. So it's, I would, suffice to say, I am comfortable with the label. I don't know if I would call it a disease, but they are personality traits, which I have to be constantly aware if I don't want to display them. I think we are able to improve ourselves, but it's difficult, and we need to be constantly aware. With that, I pass.
Thank you for your share. Excuse me. Anyone else would like to share their experience, strengths, and hope with this meeting about, yes, Donna B., I see your hand. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. My name is Donna B., and I'm a codependent. And thank you so much for your service and for everyone being here. And try to get this out. I write it out on paper, just the flow of it, how I have it in my mind, that I was told a defect is something I have too much of, and a shortcoming is something I don't have enough of. And that makes sense to me. And an example of that is I suffer from pride on occasion. And I look at where that all started, and I have these feelings of shame and low self-worth, and I'm a horrible, not like what I did is horrible, but I'm horrible. And so I act out with pride and poof myself up a bit, or try to cover up all those bad feelings that I have going on. And then pretty soon those become all my thoughts, and I think of it constantly, different ways to hide from it or control it. And then I start taking action on those thoughts. And when I take those actions, it becomes my behavior or my characteristic. And so for me in Codependence Anonymous, I get to take a look at those characteristics and behavior that are causing me so much problem and disconnect in my life. And for me, it's been going back and really just looking at my particular ones. Pride is just a little one, and it's always been the juggernaut, because some pride is good for you, but it's that false pride that comes out and makes life more difficult for you. And my sponsor had me write in the front page of the Codependence Anonymous book, accept other people as they are, recognize my own feelings, meet my own needs, and love myself just as I am. And I wrote that as my birthright, and I believe that. And the assets are who I am. It's not all these other things. It's not my defects. It's not my shortcomings. And learning to find a spiritual program to help me sort through all these very painful things are what I keep coming back for. And I really appreciate these meetings, and I get so much insight from hearing other people share. And thank you.
Thank you so much for that share, Donna. Amy, I see your hand up. I would just like Donna to repeat that a defect is something I don't have enough of. And what was the other part of that? I really like that, Donna.
A defect is something I have too much of, like I have too much pride, and it controls how I think, how I behave, and I take action on it, and that builds my behavior and my character. And the shortcoming is something I do not have enough of. The shortcoming is not having enough self-worth. It's not having enough self-esteem. It's believing in a lie instead of believing the truth about myself.
I want to make sure I got this right. A defect is something I have too much of. A shortcoming is something I don't have enough of. I'm going to put that in the chat. I like that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today, Donna. Amy, I see your hand up. Welcome.
Yes, hi. I don't know what I want to say about this thing is the way I was raised. I was as a female, I always had low self-esteem. My dad always, the only thing he ever thought of was for me to get married and put my faith in some other person that was going to take care of me. And that never really worked out for me. So, but every time I get into a relationship, I find myself falling back into that pattern because that was the way I was raised. And also in my religion, I'm supposed to be kind to other people and they'll be kind to me back. And a lot of that, therapists have told me a lot of that is untrue. But I don't know that these are defects when we turn ourselves over to another person, because that's, at my age, that's the way females were raised, at least in my family. And I don't know that no matter how hard I try to change my characteristics are, it's really hard because I have a lot of low self-esteem because I was raised that I am not important enough to be in charge of anything. Although I was in charge of myself for many years because I was single, but my dad really probably never thought much of that. So yeah, these defects I like what Donna actually said, where she said it's something I have too much of, because I think that was ingrained in me, too much of being kind, of being second to somebody else. And I like that. I really do. Anyway, that's about all I have to say about it. I appreciate this forum and letting me share. Thank you.
Thank you for your share, Amy. Anyone else on today's topic? The labels and definitions in CoDA and how I see my codependency and my codependent behaviors.
Got a hand up, David?
Yes, Patricia. Thank you, Jim. Welcome, Patricia.
Thank you. I'm sorry I jumped on late. Time got away on me, and then I remembered that it started at 1 o'clock my time.
You're not late. You're right on time for you.
Thank you. My name is Patricia, and I am codependent. And I've been working a program for a number, I've been working a focused program for about 3 years now. And I have really felt that I've made progress until I get around people, in particular my family, and that's not my sibling, but my own children. When I get around them, then I feel like I really lose a lot of ground. And like someone had shared earlier, religion has taught me to be charitable, be kind, be peaceable, all the good elements that are out there. And I struggle with trying to realize those attributes and learn how to have those attributes in my life. And then with setting boundaries and sticking up for myself and not giving away my power. And so I struggle with that. This past weekend, I went prepared. I was going to see my family, some of my kids that I've only seen once in 8 months, and another family due to distance once in a year. So the ones that are closer, they're in another city. They're about 3 hours away. The grandkids, they have bonded with me, them. It's fantastic when we get together. The unconditional love is something I'd never, ever received ever before in my life until I had these precious little souls. And they taught me what unconditional love really, really is like. Because they are so innocent and they just don't have a hidden agenda. And, but I went in and I thought I'd be able to deal with my son, who is basically who can't stand me, but he doesn't know why. And he won't, he's not ready for me to do an amends. And, but I feel his animosity towards me. When I ask him about it, he doesn't know why, he doesn't know what to do. It just goes on and on and on. I'm a senior, and I said to him the other day, I feel it from you, and time is marching on. I'm ready and I'm waiting to give this amends, and encouraged him that the two of us, if he would only allow it, we could sit down and we could go through this. If we need help when we get to the bottom of the mountain, we'll call on a professional if we need somebody to get us up. So he heard me, but it's not going to change anything. And then I have a daughter who is not the daughter that I thought, I guess, and I find out I'm not the mother that she wanted. She's the mother. I'm the mother she got. I'm not the mother that she wanted. So what I do when I'm around them is I can feel their animosity towards me. It triggers me because automatically I'm back in my childhood. I'm being rejected. And then I cave in. I give them my power. You know, I'll say what you want me to say. I'll do what you want me to do, this kind of thing. And then I leave there and then I go ahead and I beat myself up because I feel like then my codependency issues that I work so hard on, they're not taking root, or they're not taking root strong enough. So then it's a vicious cycle, very vicious cycle. So then I get away from it all and I get home and I try to ground myself and try to get my balance and equilibrium back and do all of that. And then, of course, then I'm faced with, you know, you have to continue to be kind. You have to continue to be patient. You have to continue to be in long suffering. And I'm just I get really frustrated with it. I really do today. I'm really struggling with it because I just like to tell them, bite the wall. If you don't want me in your life, bite the wall. Because that's what I would do with a friend. That's what I would do with a coworker. That's what I would do with another church person that has the same faith. If it's not working, it's not working. And I'm okay with that. But you can't seem to be able, I can't do that with my kids because my grandchildren would suffer and I would suffer. And my kids aren't getting it yet because they're at that age where life, that's just not important enough in their life. And I'm at the age looking back and saying, oh man, I wished I would have known that. I wish somebody would have told me that when I was your age. So today is like, I read a lot of Melody Beattie. She's my best friend. She doesn't know that, but she is every day. We get together and I go through word by word and feeling by feeling everything that she says in her Language of Letting Go book. And so that's my share for today. I'm really grateful for the program. It's I wished it would have been around, the shoulda, woulda, coulda thing when I was young, but they didn't have that then, and they do now. So for young people now, it's a great blessing in their life. I'm old, and it's still a great blessing in my life because I want to enjoy the rest of my life. I've worked hard all my life. I've been an extreme codependent all my life. I've done the martyr. I've done the victim. I've done the rescue me. I've done let me caretake you. Let me control the situation. Everything will work out. If I'm in charge, do I approve of everything? I mean, that's how I lived my life. I didn't even know it. I don't know how people put up with me, but they did. And now I don't do that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't like getting triggered into becoming that, 2 steps back person. And so that's my goal. So I stick with this. I work it. And just as an aside, the frustration is being criticized because I'm not perfect by the people that want me to be perfect, but I'm the only one in program. I'm the only one that goes to meetings. I have been for a long time now. And so that's a little frustrating because I have to bite my tongue when I want to say to them, you are so dang codependent. You need a meeting. But, it would fall on deaf ears. So I carry on and I carry on with meetings and people of like mind. So I really appreciate the time you're giving me to share today. And I'm really glad that I'm here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your share, Patricia. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat. That is all the time we have for sharing today. I will keep the room open for comments, questions, and feedback on today's topic, the labels and definitions in CoDA, and how do I define my codependency. Also, I'm thinking before I got into this program, people liked me or loved me in spite of myself. In this program, I'm learning how to be a better me. And now I think people are more able to like or love me because of who I am rather than in spite of how I behave. I'm not perfect, but I'm not trying to be perfect anymore. And I'm no longer in the people-pleasing business. People like me or don't like me because of who they are. What's different now is I like myself more, and I'm learning how to like myself even more every day by using the principles and tools I learn about in this program. I'm so grateful for this program, and especially for your shares every time. Thank you for being here and sharing your experience, strength, and hope with us today. We'll close the program with the CoDA closing prayer, which I will share on the screen. Let's see, do I need to make announcements about next month's topic first? No. Okay, great. So we'll put the CoDA closing prayer up on the screen. And if you would like to say along with me, just unmute yourself. CoDA closing prayer. We thank our
Higher
power for all that we have from this meeting. As we close, may we take with us the wisdom of acceptance and hope of recovery. Thank you, everyone, for being here and sharing with us today. Great to see you. Hope to see you again real soon in another meeting. Stay safe, be well, and with that, the meeting is closed. I will stop the recording.
Thank you.
Thank you.